Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News 10 at 10, where we give you more news in less time. Let's get started. It's been more than 3 months since 2 devastating wildfires burned more than 20,000 acres of land, hundreds of buildings, claimed 2 lives, and left behind the communities of Medical Lake and Elk to pick up the pieces. Since then, the process to rebuild has been a long one. Homeowners have faced hurdles with insurance, property tax, and rebuilding codes. And new tonight, they took another step forward, learning about state and federal resources that may soon be available. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk reports from Elk tonight.
Many people at tonight's meeting are now living in RVs. They're cold and frustrated with how long all this help that's been talked about is taking. They were once again reminded by county officials that even with all the resources available, it will never be enough to make every single person whole. This single mom lost everything and says her insurance lapsed 2 weeks before the Oregon Road fire. 3 months later, she's still looking for help. This woman says she's living in an RV with 4 dogs and a duck, struggling to stay warm. And this couple had been saving up to build a home. Those building supplies turned to piles of ash. Now they can hardly afford their car and tractor payment.
We've been trying to live a normal life, and we just keep getting a gut punch every time we start to walk ourselves back up.
People in Elk want help to survive the winter and say assistance is taking too long.
And no matter what we're doing, it will never be quick enough to help you.
Chandra Fox with Spokane County Emergency Management says aid and recovery takes time.
We don't have the resources to make every single one of you whole.
She says the county is expecting a decision from FEMA regarding federal aid by the end of the year. State Rep Leonard Christian hosted tonight's town hall alongside Spokane County Assessor Tom Konis.
We have reduced values total for both fires on 781 parcels so far this year. And that's $166 million worth of assessed value we've taken off.
Konis says many people have already received a check for the difference.
That goes clear back to the 18th when the fire happened on August 18th through the end of this year. Plus that'll also carry over to all of next year for them, irregardless of whether or not they rebuild or not.
Many here tonight do plan to rebuild, but for those who were either underinsured or had no insurance to begin with, the path forward is foggy.
We're a young couple that's been trying to make something of our lives in a world that doesn't seem to really care much for people anymore.
In Elk, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Meantime, across the county, homeowners in Medical Lake were feeling a similar frustration tonight. That meeting focused on a lawsuit that had been filed against the Inland Power and Light. And coming up tonight, new at 11, we'll hear from an attorney involved with the case on where exactly it stands tonight. And tomorrow, Washington Governor Jay Inslee will be in Moses Lake for a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the site of a new battery materials plant. Sila will supply key materials to electric vehicle manufacturers to make them charge faster and travel further. The plant also expects to hire 500 full-time employees once it opens. Inslee will also discuss the state's investments in sustainable housing with Habitat for Humanity. More than 1 million new homes must be built in the next 20 years in order to keep up with demand. Spokane City budget just passed last night has millions more dollars for police and fire aimed at increasing safety. KREM 2's Shannon Mowdy breaks down the biggest bullet points. Just 24 hours ago, Spokane City Council voted unanimously to pass the budget for the next fiscal year. One of the largest boosts in funding will be to the Spokane Police Department. That budget will increase by nearly $12 million. The budget for the fire department will go up just under 2% to around $47.6 million. Council did make one change to the mayor's original proposal. The amount of money allocated to a new traffic enforcement unit was cut by $1 million. That money can only be used for traffic enforcement like reducing speeding. The results of the general election were officially certified today, and Lisa Brown agreed to sit down with our very own Whitney Ward as the mayoral-elect. Brown already has a temporary office in City Hall, and coming up in just 10 minutes, she tells us exactly what she hopes to conquer. And less than a month ago, election offices across Washington state were shut down after receiving a suspicious powder in the mail. A similar envelope with white powder shut down another business today, this time in Seattle. Hazmat crews locked down the building and treated one person who came into contact with the substance. They are said to be in satisfactory condition right now. The white powdery substance has yet to be identified. It is not known if this is linked to the earlier incidents at the elections offices. Well, take a look at this time-lapse video rolling over, or rather the fog rolling over of the city of Seattle this morning. A freezing fog advisory expired for the area earlier this afternoon, but that fog forced SeaTac to implement a ground stop for about 3 hours today. That was lifted at 11:15 this morning. On that note, our forecast looking a little different with an air stagnation advisory in place. Chief Meteorologist Jeremy Legoo joining us now to tell us how much longer that is expected to last. Jeremy?
Well, when it comes to our overall weather pattern, I don't think we really get a change in it until Thursday. But get this, as we currently sit, that air stagnation advisory also equates to some fog. Seeing a little bit of that downtown, but a lot of it here on the South Hill. Dense fog across much of the inland Northwest. We have a dense fog advisory in place until 8 a.m. on Wednesday. It is also freezing to everything. You'll likely see a little bit of rime ice tomorrow and wake up to some slick roads, very similar to what we saw in some areas this morning. That's all part of that stagnation, the air that's not going anywhere. All of that moisture sits down near the surface. And with our ridge overhead, we're not expecting much of a change tomorrow or as we move through the next couple of days. We'll wake up to that fog, see a little sun in the afternoon before clouds take over on Thursday. And if you like the clouds, well, maybe you'll like the snow. By Friday morning, we're waking up to about an inch of it. I'll walk you through the exact details coming up.
Sounds good. Jeremy will check back in with you later in the broadcast. Now to our night beat with a quick look at the day's top stories. The Washington Supreme Court is blocking a previous ruling on who could control the Pac-12 conference. The last two remaining universities in the conference, Washington State and Oregon State, are seeking full control of the governing board, and a Whitman County judge previously granted that request. But the other universities challenged that ruling, and today the state Supreme Court stepped in. The block will stay in place as the court decides whether to review the case or transfer it to the state's Court of Appeals. The deadline for that ruling is coming up on December 12th. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office asking for help identifying a potential person of interest in a South Hill bank robbery. So take a look at your screen right here. Happening less than 2 weeks ago, deputies and Spokane police responded to a robbery at the Numerica Credit Union on the South Hill. Deputies say the suspect ran off before police arrived. Anyone with information is urged to call that number right there at the bottom of your screen. And the community of Medical Lake is planning a candlelight vigil for the young girl who was killed over the weekend. Today, the Spokane County Medical Examiner identified that girl as 11-year-old Lilia Stolworthy. Police believe she was the victim of domestic violence. Her brother is the suspect in that murder. The vigil will take place at Wilcox Park in Medical Lake on Thursday, November 30th at 6 p.m. And that was your Night Beat. To learn more about any of these stories, just head to our website. That's KREM.com. On day 5 of the temporary pause in the war, 10 more Israelis were released by Hamas. Israel still vowing to crush Hamas after the pause ends. Despite this, 30 Palestinian prisoners were also freed. No Americans were returned to freedom today, and the ceasefire is expected to run out on Wednesday. Up to 9 are believed to be held captive, including a 19-year-old whose father is still holding out hope.
The fact that he is a U.S. citizen, maybe that gives him maybe an extra layer of protection, but I don't think it matters too much to Hamas.
So far, 81 hostages have been freed during the temporary truce. Israel has freed 180 Palestinian prisoners. In other national news, the clock is ticking on the congressional career of New York Republican George Santos. Democrats made a move today that forces Republican leaders to bring an expulsion resolution to the floor within 2 days. Many of Santos' own GOP colleagues support the ouster, and today he said he won't fight it.
If they want to send me home, if they think this was a fair process, if they think this is how it should be done, and if they're confident that this is a constitutional way of doing it, God bless their hearts.
Momentum toward his expulsion began building earlier this month after a report by the House Ethics Committee accused Santos of using campaign money for luxury goods, Botox treatments, and personal trips.